It's Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by former world champion Anthony Crolla via freebets.com. Anthony, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, thank you. You keeping well, Dana?
I'm very good, thanks, mate. Bit dreary, the weather's turned now. I guess summer's officially over, but plenty of fights to look forward to at least.
It is, yeah, no, an exciting time coming up. I think a show's getting announced all over the show, and like you say, I've missed the sort of the little gap, the close season that the boxing's had in
Yeah,
the UK.
yeah, 100%. Now, I was reading your column, which is obviously on Free Bets and on the Seconds Out website for this week, and you're talking about a pound for pound list, but this is the springboard for that is Naoya Inoue's latest
Yeah,
win. This one over TJ Dehaney, perhaps not quite as explosive as we're used to seeing from him, but impressive nonetheless. What did you make of
yeah.
the fight?
No, he was still, like you say, he was still very impressive. But there's a lot of people now talking about him getting put down last time out. Does that make him a little bit wary? But listen, I still thought he looked very good. And listen, TJ Downey, I thought he gave a really good account of himself. Really good account of himself. But I feel like you say it was an injury, but it was coming. Inoue there, like you say, he looked very strong, very menacing in there. It was probably, like you say, I think he took his time a little bit more than normal. But I think if he is going to keep going through the weights, he probably is going to have to think about that a little bit more. I think he's shown last time out that he's not superhuman. Well, I mean, he is because of what he's done, but he can be hurt.
And the commentators made a fact of him looking decidedly smaller in the ring than TJ Dehaney. He was a big super bantam, but with talk of Inoue perhaps going further through the weights, how much confidence do you have in him going up to at least featherweight?
That's it. Obviously, I think eventually, no matter how good a fighter is, when they do keep going up the weights, eventually they are going to run into someone who's naturally that much bigger, but also as good as them. And what's the saying? A good big one beats a good little one. And I think that eventually would happen with Inoue. Could he go up to featherweight? Yeah, I believe that. But do I think it would be as ruthless and as dominating as a featherweight? No, I don't. But listen, we'll see now what he does. But obviously, if he is to go featherweight, obviously he has got to be a little bit more defensive minded. That's for sure. Just like any fighter would who's going through the weights.
He's often compared Inoue to Canelo, especially in recent times. Obviously, some elements of Golovkin as well. How
Yeah,
much can you take from Canelo's kind of change in style when he moved up to light heavyweight?
I was gonna say I probably see more Golovkin than Canelo, if I'm honest. But I think with any of the top fighters around the world, listen, I think we've saw many world class offensive fighters, world class punchers, but to get to that elite level and stay at that elite level, they've got to be world class defensively, and that's one thing I'll always say about Canelo. I've been lucky enough to see him close up, and what impressed me the most was his defense, the way he could defend by applying pressure, and so I think that's what I knew he's sort of making do. He's making fighters work constantly. He's making them think with his feet as well as his hands. Obviously, when you look at the likes of Usyk, Lomachenko, they would saying he would drown them with the front foot because he'd be fainting. He'd be making fighters react, and that's what was tiring fighters out. But I think, like you say, with him there now, I sort of said it a few times, haven't I? As he's going to go up the weights, he'll probably have to be a little bit more defense minded, and maybe that was the start of it the other day.
And on the topic of the pound for pound list, we know Canelo's still up there, but probably not in the top three
Yeah,
anymore. Most people would say it is, as you said in the column,
yeah,
Usyk, Crawford, and Inoue.
yeah.
Your pick of the number one at the moment is Crawford. Why? What gives him the edge?
Do you know what? I'll be honest, Dan. I think it's just my personal preference, because of, and that is it. And I couldn't. I think I said it in the column, didn't I? I couldn't argue whichever way you see it. If you see Inoue as number one, if you see Usyk as number one, some people have Crawford number three for inactivity. But I just believe with Crawford, I just believe he's so versatile. Front foot, back foot, orthodox, southpaw, inside. I believe he can do it all, every bit as good as the other. I don't believe he's. Do you know what I mean? You can't be like, oh, he's better on the front foot, oh, he's better on the back foot. Do you know what I mean? I really do believe he can do it all. But again, I wouldn't argue. Listen, you could easily say Inoue for his activity and the way he's is inactive like that. Whereas as Crawford hasn't been most active, then you can obviously look towards Usyk and go, you're talking about a man who cleaned up at the cruiserweight division. He's moved up in weight and won one of the greatest prizes in sport as well by moving up in weight and dominating the heavyweight division. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Usyk is got the quality of opposition, hasn't he? Because he's beaten Joshua, he's beaten Fury, similar to Crawford beating Spence. Is Inoue a little bit unfortunate in that he hasn't got that big rival?
Yeah, he is. He is a little bit. And listen, let's be honest, going through the lower divisions, it doesn't quite get the same recognition as what an heavyweight division would. Let's be honest, cruiserweight to heavyweight, and even the mega fight that Crawford had with Spence. It's like, who does Inoue need to, to make that happen? That's where he's a little bit unfortunate. That's probably never going to help him cement it in a lot of people's mind. But that's through no fault of his own.
Yeah, it's difficult. And then with Usyk, you've got him in the position he is now. It's hard to see what he does further. If he beats Fury again, that's great. But after that, how does he enhance his legacy?
That's exactly that. You're right there. If he beats Tyson again, then what's next? You just nailed it. Like, how does he enhance his legacy? Then, listen, there's some fantastic heavyweights coming through, but how long does he wait around? Obviously, I don't want to speak out of turn because I know it's a while off yet. I think Moses Itauma is heir to the throne, but it's just, obviously, it's not going to be just yet. So, is Usyk going to be around in a few years' time? Do you know what I mean? Like, who in that division now do you think, right, so if he comes through Tyson Fury, who does he fight again? So who does he fight then to enhance it? I just think you've nailed it, and it's hard to really see that.
Yeah, I agree.
So if Usyk's not, if you don't have Usyk number one now, when will you ever have him number one? Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then Crawford, who is your current number one, looks like Canelo's got no interest in fighting him at the moment. So what does he do to kind of further bolster his?
Oh, well, listen, I think there's the move up to middleweight, some of the fighters there, when you look around that. So it helps him like that. And listen, it's no easy state to sort of move up. Obviously there's light heavyweight, there's middleweight, and then there's obviously like there is sort of mega fights there. And I mean, I don't know what's happening with Charlo, but that'd still do big numbers, one of them, wouldn't it? And stuff. And there's plenty of fights out there. There's the Boots Ennis one that gets talked about. Obviously, you'd have to move up. It's but there's a lot more options, isn't there, for a Terence Crawford than there is a Usyk. Like I said, now I don't know if it's Tyson. Genuinely, if asking you, or asking a boxing fan. So, who would you like to see Usyk fight next after Tyson Fury? And whoever it is, you don't believe it. There's dangerous fights out there, but it doesn't enhance his legacy or anything like that, in my opinion.
The chances are Crawford, Canelo, Usyk, Inoue will all probably be retired in 5 years' time.
Absolutely.
Putting your kind of crystal ball in your hands, excuse the pun, who's going to be pound for pound number one or challenging for it in 5 years, do you think?
Oh, wow. That's a big shout. I don't know if I think he'd still be around. Shakur Stevenson. He's only young enough still. I think I'd put him right up there. But again, for me, I can appreciate it, but will he have the crossover when he's, very defensively minded and stuff like that? You're talking about fighters like him. There's fighters, but then he needs to fight with your Tank Davis, with your, not 5 years' time. Listen, a whole lot can change. There'll be people coming out the current Olympic cycle and stuff like that. Some of like these Uzbek superstars of the shows, you know what I mean? You'll be around. So it could be now. But I mean, just now, obviously, Shakur Stevenson's young enough, isn't he, where you don't see him going anywhere, disappearing from boxing anytime soon.
And you fancy, from what you said earlier, Moses Itauma to dominate the heavyweights in 5 years?
I do. I believe in 5 years' time, if not sooner. I think Moses Itauma could be a heavyweight champion of the world. I've been on the Moses Itauma hype train very early. I really have, from when he was stopping people in European juniors or in schoolboys, or I think it was juniors, to be honest. But I've been on it a good few years anyway, and I think he's a special talent.
And he's moved, obviously, recently to Ben Davison's gym in Harlow. how much do you think that'll benefit him? Not just being with Ben, but also around people like Fabio
Yeah,
Wardley and Anthony Joshua.
of course. And listen, there's no denying what an amazing job Dan, I forget his second name, Dan, but I've met him to do that, what he done with Moses. But obviously being around at the Ben Davidson Performance Centre, there's no denying that's a gym that's red hot, and that's a gym that's doing great things. I would say there's very rare you see a fighter go there and they not have success with him. But I think being around your likes of you, Anthony Joshua, you know, who's there where he wants to be, that can only help him. That can only help him. And, you know, some of the other fighters, not even just in the heavyweight division, you know, he's Joe Cardina's there now. You know, Lee Wood, he's around fighters who've got to the top, and he's around them so he can just pick up little things from them, even though they might not be heavyweights. And then he's around young, hungry fighters as well, like the McCormack brothers, Royston Barney Smith. Listen, the gyms are very it's the home of some special fighters. And being around that can only help you. You know, I was fortunate when I was boxing, I was around a gym. There's a few world champions in, there's 3 British titles, and there's very much that you don't want to be a weak link in the gym, or you know, you want to be, when you're on circuit, you're on the track, you're all pushing each other. Do you know what I mean? There's that friendly bit of competition that brings the best out of you. And I believe Moses being in a gym like that will help.
Great stuff, mate. Really appreciate your time as always. And
No worries, Dan.
Catch up again next week.
Dan, we'll catch up then, mate.
Take
See
care,
you
mate.
Bye, mate. Have a good
Bye-bye.
one.